Hello everyone, welcome to today's story. A quiet morning, a mother leaves her child in the arms of a grandmother, not knowing that her life is about to be torn apart. Tuna suddenly disappears. Her traces vanish like mist in the rain. CEO Alex, torn between business responsibilities and the woman he cannot forget, rushes into a desperate search. Alongside Johnny, he follows fragile clues, but every path leads only to silence. And then, a haunting suspicion arises. Could this be the hidden scheme of Tuna's former mother-in-law? Will Alex and Johnny, with the help of the police, find Tuna before it's too late? Or will the truth remain buried in shadows? Stay with us until the very end to uncover every twist of this emotional, dramatic journey. And don't forget, please subscribe to the channel to help us reach 1,000 followers, so we can continue bringing you more untold stories. The morning light filtered through the thin curtains, painting the room in a pale gold. Tuna bent over her child, whispering the same words again and again. "Be good, stay with Grandma. Let Mom go to work." Her voice trembled between affection and worry, as though repeating the sentence could protect the baby from the hardships waiting outside the door. On the wooden table, a small bottle of milk rested. Her effort, carefully prepared before leaving, she placed it in her mother's hands, as if passing a piece of her heart. The old woman smiled gently, promising to take care of the little one. Yet Tuna lingered, her gaze clinging to the sleeping child, unwilling to let go. When she finally stepped out, the world felt heavy. The road stretched ahead like a long, uncertain river. She knocked on doors, asked for work, but rejection followed her like an echo. Her smile faltered, and the emptiness inside deepened. At last, she turned to the fruit trees, her hands moving among the branches of ripe longan, gathering what she could. Each fruit she picked seemed like a fragile hope, something she could carry to the market, something that might turn into milk, into warmth for her baby. The sun grew harsh, sweat traced down her cheeks, but inside her chest was a quiet fire. Between the weight of poverty and the tenderness of motherhood, Tuna walked on, holding tightly to a thread of fragile resilience. The house behind her faded into distance, but the echo of her child's breath stayed with her, reminding her of the reason she could not stop. The marketplace buzzed with noise, yet Alex's steps were deliberate, heavy with purpose. He approached one stall after another, describing the same image. A tall woman carrying a baby on her back, with a basket. Did you see her pass by? Some shook their heads absent-mindedly, while others paused, recalling faintly. A few pointed down a narrow road, their voices uncertain yet tinged with recognition. Each gesture, each hesitant reply, sparked a fragile flame inside Alex. He felt as if he were chasing shadows in fog, glimpses that might vanish at any moment. The heat of the noon sun pressed down, but the chill he carried came from within, from the thought that Tuna could be close yet unreachable. Standing at a crossroads, Alex pulled out his phone and dialed. The line crackled, then steadied. "Long, I need your help. You know this area better than I do. People said they saw her. I'll send you my location, please. Bring someone to help me search." The sound of traffic and distant voices blurred into background noise. What remained sharp was his own heartbeat, rising with each second of waiting. His eyes scanned the road as if Tuna might appear from behind the crowd, carrying her child, smiling shyly the way she once did. But there was only dust, the endless flow of strangers, and a silence beneath the marketplace din. Alex clenched his phone tighter. The man of business, always decisive, now felt powerless. He was no longer negotiating contracts or profits. He was bargaining with fate, begging for one small sign of the woman he could not lose. The ringtone cut through the tense air like a blade. Alex glanced at the screen. Lan. Her voice carried urgency. The partners insisted on meeting today, both him and his team face to face. He closed his eyes briefly, torn between two worlds. On one side, Tuna's fading trail. On the other, the binding weight of his company's future. He forced himself to answer, arranging to meet, though every word felt like betrayal. The drive to the meeting stretched like an exile. Fields and villages blurred past the window, yet his thoughts remained at the market stalls, at the uncertain testimonies of strangers. The partner sat across from him, speaking of fruits: Buddha's hand, custard apple, grapefruit. Numbers, tons, contracts spilled across the table. Alex nodded at the right times, his tone composed, but his mind was absent. He agreed to quantities, 10, maybe 15 tons, and assured quality. His voice was steady, but his chest was a battlefield. A storm hidden behind calm eyes. Every mention of quality assurance, every handshake, reminded him of promises unfulfilled elsewhere. The promise to keep Tuna safe, to never let her vanish from his reach. Business was a language he knew by heart, yet today it felt hollow. When the papers were tucked away and polite farewells exchanged, Alex lingered, staring at his reflection in the glass. His face was pale, strained, not from negotiations but from the silence that followed. Out there, Tuna was somewhere unknown, perhaps calling his name in the quiet of her heart. He stepped outside, the evening air thick with dust, and for the first time in years the success of a deal felt meaningless. The sky dimmed, and a fine drizzle fell over the crowded market. Amid the scent of wet earth and ripe fruit, Adam caught sight of her, Tuna, standing behind a small pile of long gone, her shoulders damp with rain. For a moment, disbelief froze him, then relief surged through his chest. "Tuna," he called softly, stepping closer. She looked up, startled, then forced a small smile. Her hands, roughened by work, still moved to cover the fruit as if shielding it from the drizzle. Adam offered his jacket, but she shook her head gently, the refusal more about pride than need. He insisted on helping. Together they gathered her goods, and soon he led her to his car. On the way, he stopped at a grocery store. "For Miss Tang," he said, picking up cakes. Then, without asking, he added a box of milk. "For your child." Tuna hesitated, eyes glistening, not with tears, but with an emotion too deep for words. Gratitude mingled with a quiet ache of dependence. When they reached near her home, she declined his offer to go further. Adam handed her the parcels. "Take them, don't refuse, it's nothing." His words were gentle but firm. Tuna finally accepted, whispering a soft "thank you." As he drove away, the rain grew heavier, blurring his silhouette. She walked slowly, clutching the milk to her chest as if it were treasure. Back home, the grandmother welcomed her warmly, praising the baby's calmness. Tuna shared the story of Adam's kindness, placing the milk beside the crib. In that fragile moment, under the roof of a poor house, warmth returned. Not from the weather outside, but from human compassion that refused to let her sink alone. Night began to fold over the horizon, and Johnny stood at the edge of an unfamiliar street, the shadows of lanterns flickering against his face. He had asked again and again, describing Tuna to strangers, only to be met with puzzled looks or hesitant nods that led nowhere. Weariness settled in his shoulders, yet his eyes refused to dim. He called Alex. The voice on the other end was steady, but Johnny sensed the tension beneath it. Alex spoke of police contacts, of areas being cordoned off, of witnesses who swore they had seen a woman like Tuna. "I'm near the farm's crossroads," Johnny said. "If you're close, come." Within minutes, Alex agreed. The weight of unfinished work clung to him, yet the urgency in Johnny's words stirred something deeper. He drove quickly, the road stretching before him like a question with no answer. When they met, the silence between them spoke louder than greetings. Both men carried the same thought, that they were racing against time, against forces they could neither name nor control. The countryside around them seemed too quiet, as if it were holding its breath. Johnny leaned on the hood of the car, scanning the darkening fields. "She can't just vanish," he murmured, his voice low but edged with desperation. Alex did not reply. He only tightened his grip on the steering wheel, as though holding on to resolve itself. The two men stood there, bound by a shared determination. Whatever paths of life had separated them, in this moment, they were united by one fragile purpose: to find Tuna before the trail grew colder. The search widened under Long's direction. Flashlights cut through the dusk, slicing beams across narrow paths and empty stalls. The air was thick with tension, every rustle of leaves hinting at a clue that never materialized. Alex followed, his steps restless, eyes scanning each shadow with a desperation he could no longer disguise. Then came the silence, too heavy, too sudden. The fruit stall where Tuna had stood earlier was deserted, her presence erased as if she had never been there. No neighbors recalled her return, no passerby remembered her steps. It was as though the earth itself had swallowed her. Alex froze, disbelief burning into his chest. She was here, he whispered to himself, the certainty cutting against the emptiness before him. A tremor passed through his hand as he reached for his phone, but the numbers blurred. For the first time, he felt utterly lost. In the hollow of that stillness, a darker thought crept in. Was this disappearance an accident, or was it orchestrated? His mind circled back to the figure who had always lingered at the edge of Tuna's life, her former mother-in-law. Could she have spun this web, pulling Tuna away into the shadows? Alex did not speak the suspicion aloud, but his silence weighed heavier than words. Long glanced at him, noting the strain in his face. "We'll keep searching," the officer assured, though his voice carried the fatigue of too many uncertainties. The night pressed closer, and with it the sense of unseen hands at work. Alex's heart pounded, not just with fear of losing Tuna, but with the haunting possibility that someone else had already found her first. Engines idled softly as the teams gathered at the fork of the road. Long laid out the plan with a calm authority: divide into pairs, cover the winding lanes, question the households one by one. His tone was steady, yet his eyes betrayed the same urgency that tightened every breath. Alex stood beside him, the glow of the headlights casting hard shadows across his face. He nodded at the instructions, but inside, his thoughts spiraled. Each unlit path seemed like a test. One might lead to Tuna, another to nothingness. Worse still, one might lead to a truth too bitter to bear, a truth shaped by the hands of her former mother-in-law. The suspicion gnawed at him, unspoken yet persistent, like a thorn embedded deep. Johnny joined them, his gaze fierce despite exhaustion. "We split now," he urged, determination carrying his words. Their partnership, unlikely in the past, had found new ground in this shared search. Alex recognized the same quiet fire in Johnny's eyes, a refusal to give up, no matter how faint the trail. With a quick nod, the group dispersed. Alex followed long into the night, their footsteps crunching against gravel, the silence between them broken only by the hum of distant insects. Somewhere out there, Tuna's absence pulsed like a wound, invisible but undeniable. As they disappeared down separate paths, the beams of their flashlights painted thin arcs of hope onto the darkness. The search was not over. It had only deepened. And though uncertainty lingered, Alex clung to the fragile belief that dawn might still bring an answer. Because sometimes, even the faintest light is enough to keep a heart from breaking.
Một buổi sáng bình yên, Tử Na gửi con cho bà Trâm đi tìm kiếm công việc không ai nhận. Cô đành đi thu hoạch nhãn mang ra chợ bán, mong kiếm chút tiền sữa. Trong lúc ấy, Eze và Tony ráo riết đòi hỏi cô khắp nơi, lần theo lời mơ hồ của dân chợ. Alex vừa gánh áp lực công việc, vừa nặng lòng tìm Tử Na. Anh tình cờ Adam gặp Tử Na ngoài chợ, giúp đỡ cô mua đồ và đưa cô về, nhưng ngay sau đó lại đột nhiên biến mất. Những dấu vết quen thuộc bị xóa sạch, để lại khoảng trống bất ngờ. Alex bối rối nghi ngờ bàn tay của mẹ chồng cũ đứng sau. Anh cùng John và Long chia đội tìm kiếm, lao vào bóng tối và hy vọng anh tìm lại Tử Na.